Welcome to the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc and Sean Castles, coming to you from Radio Waves Studios in New York City. Now, let's kick off the show.
Well, hi again, everybody. I am indeed Marc Renee. Somewhat surprisingly, it's me here in person. Sean Castles, as always, alongside, but no more Sean Show solos for now, as it's you, Mr. Castles, who is phoning it in this time.
That's right. I'm out here in Warren, Rhode Island. I was trying to chase local bars out here in Boston to find out about Scott's, but have not been having any luck yet. But I'm phoning it in this week.
Yeah, speaking of not having any luck, the timing of this episode's recording is the night after the night of, which means Team USA has now been eliminated by the Belgians. And I'm going to be honest, I think this whole Flo Balogun thing is just so ridiculously beyond the pale. It never should have happened. FIFA needed to show a little backbone. They have rules, they have regulations. It's not that the red card was rescinded. If they want to do that, that's fine, but that's not what happened here. They just suspended, if you will, his suspension, and to me, that's just ridiculous. And it wound up, quite honestly, I think Team USA in this particular match might have been better off without him, given all the distractions.
I'm not sure if anything would have changed it because Belgium came out to play. Belgium looked like they had a chip on their shoulder. Everyone had been talking for the past few days that the U.S. is going to win. U.S. is going to be on home soil. And this Belgium team is really, really good. This Belgium team had Kevin De Bruyne on the bench, didn't even play. Ex-Manchester City, current Napoli player. Romelu Lukaku, who is one of the top strikers over the past decade, came off the bench in the final 5 minutes. They're a really deep team, but that being said, the U.S. didn't even come to fight. They looked really tentative. While I love him, my heart goes out to Christian Pulisic because he got hurt. You had mentioned in our, I think, 3 episodes back when we talked about players that needed to show up at the World Cup, or at least we're going to have something, that Christian Pulisic needed to show up. And he didn't. And we're once again knocked out by Belgium, just like 2014. And I think that 2014 game was better. It just shows that Tim Howard, Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey team was actually really special. That was a 1-0 loss.
Yeah, and what really, sits with me is that I think a lot of these guys who we saw on Team USA this time around are going to be forgotten way before we forget about that 2014 squad and those legends. I don't know that we have too many transcendent players on this squad. Certainly, Tim Howard was back then.
Yeah.
No offense to young Mr. Freeze. He is most certainly not. And he was, for all intents, the reason they got their doors blown off, because if he does even rudimentary goalkeeper things in the second half, it's still 2-1. To cough up the ball like he did on that third goal is inexcusable. To give up the fourth in the fashion they did is also inexcusable. And I come away from that, quite honestly, I knew I'd be disappointed in the end because they weren't going to win the whole thing. There was no chance. And so given the hype that built over the last couple of weeks, I was ready to go away disappointed when it was all said and done. But instead, I've got to be honest, I went to bed angry after that match.
Me too.
I was really mad because they were boys against men. And I think for whatever goodwill was built up over the course of this tournament through the group stage and the couple of knockout rounds that they did get through, or at least the one knockout match they got through, I have to be honest, I think all of that goodwill went up in smoke with that giveaway third goal to Belgium.
100%. If this had been a 2-1 loss, it would have been hang your hat, guys. You stuck in there. Belgium's a great team. But 4-1 it was embarrassing. It was tough because everyone was so excited. Everyone had bought jerseys. No one thought we were going to go beyond the quarters, against Spain or Portugal. There was a real belief. I kind of blame the media. There was a real belief pushed by all the non-soccer mainstream media who was like, no, the U.S. is winning this. And everybody believed. But there were some bright spots. Like that Malik Tillman goal was excellent. I jumped out of my seat and I was like, here we go. And then I was disappointed within 2 minutes. But that was really the only bright spot. It was a tough loss. And honestly, I kind of look back at that Turkey game and have a different thought on it. It's the Paraguay pasting that has everyone kind of surprised because they just ran rampant over this Paraguay team that took France to the end. With the dark arts, with a lot of roughing up. But I want to be positive, but it's really hard to come out of that game and not think that U.S. soccer just lit on fire all that goodwill.
Well, you know what? Not only did they soil the bed during the 90-plus minutes of action, but they also have egg all over their faces from the whole Balogun situation. And it's one thing if FIFA wants to rescind the red card. That's not what happened here. They suspended the suspension, which to me is just beyond the pale. And it made the rest of the soccer world angry at Team USA. So now it was a million nations against one going into last night.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be that way. We, the Americans, come off as the petulant, spoiled children who aren't willing to accept responsibility for our actions. Now, we can discuss until the cows come home whether that red card against Balogun in the last match was warranted. I don't think it was. I thought it was incidental contact. But the fact that it was a red card and FIFA didn't rescind the red card, they only rescinded the suspension, I think we being Team USA, needed to take the higher road and say, listen, we appreciate the efforts of whomever it is who put a bug in Gianni Infantino's ears and got the committee to look at it again and blah, 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 blah. But given what happened, he needed to sit out.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. He needed to sit out. And frankly, I think Pulisic probably needed to sit out too because he's playing hurt. And him playing compromised.
Is he, though? I can't tell.
Well, every match he was a game-time decision when he did play.
Yeah.
So, if he's compromised, get somebody on the pitch who can play at 100% and let's go. Malik Tillman, you mentioned, with that free kick goal. He might have emerged as the star of the tournament for the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, him and Chris Richards. I am a huge Chris Richards fan now. Richards looked awesome. I will say the young guys, while you had said before this will be a team that probably will be forgotten, I would say that's definitely true of the older guys. I don't think Pulisic's going to go down as much as we would have thought. I love Weston McKennie and Weah, but I don't think they're going to be thought of the same way. But the young guys, and there's some really young talent, they're in the Premier Leagues. They're playing abroad, and they're playing in tough competition. So I'm holding out for 4 years from now.
I don't want to be angry. As we're sitting here talking about it, I'm getting more and more fumed. I don't want to feel like this. I really don't. I don't want to feel like this.
I'm going to change it up on here because this episode we want to talk about, because there was a lot of goodwill. The U.S. threw a great World Cup. And it's still throwing, at this moment, it's still throwing a great World Cup. People have come to America and said, holy crap, people are nice. Oh my God, I love the USA. I'm having a fun time. Good on us. As Americans, we have done a great job of opening our hearts, partying with people, showing them that Americans are not their politics, showing them that Americans are fun-loving people that want to help and be a part of the world. In that sense, we got stories of the Scots and the Norwegians and the Japanese cleaning up after themselves. Like story after story from the group stages was just about how awesome an experience this has been. So I'm going to pull it back into that for this episode here. While there is such disappointment, there really has been, those first 2 weeks has been fun. You got to admit that.
No, absolutely. And every match that I've watched from whatever venue it's been across this great country of ours, and it is a great country, U.S. soccer's not so great, but it's a great country, and people do rally around and they behave themselves.
Yes.
When we're amongst each other, not so much all the time. But when we're trying to make a good impression, we can make a good impression. Now, it's funny, you talk about everybody cleaning up after themselves. And now I go back to mommy says I can't play soccer today. I'm going to go ask daddy, and daddy overruled. That's who we are.
Yeah.
We should not be showing that to the rest of the world. They already know about that. We don't need to reinforce that negative stereotype that we are spoiled and petulant and can't take no for an answer.
And think that we are at the top of everything. That's, I think, the number one thing that a lot of international soccer fans, we'll call them, but real soccer fans outside of the U.S. are like, you guys are coming into this late. And now you think you're the best. And it's a very American thing. We could talk about Teddy Roosevelt and carry a big stick and pushing America out there. It's very American to do that. It's not always received very well.
And I've taken over the last few days to describe things as a cross between it's either ignorant arrogance or arrogant ignorance.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily pertain just to soccer and this World Cup or the things that surrounded the off-the-pitch things the last few days.
Yeah.
Green Day might have put it best, American idiots. We have too many of those. And I don't know how to fix that in time for the next World Cup. Certainly for the Olympics that are coming to Los Angeles in 2028. I don't see how we're going to be able... We'll put on a great show. We will put on a great show. But to me, it's a lot like The Wizard of Oz, and as long as you don't let anybody look behind the curtain, everything's hunky-dory. But as soon as they see the guy standing on top of the milk crate...
it all falls apart.
Yeah.
The House of Cards comes down.
Yeah.
To those out there who are listening to us and saying, I'm really disappointed, that last game took it out of me, I'm going to turn to you and say, did you have fun for 2 weeks? Did you enjoy and set your schedule around the World Cup? Did that change your point of view on soccer? And if the answer is yes, that you still had fun, it doesn't matter that Team USA is out because there's Club World Cup. There is soccer that is beyond this that honestly is just as fun. The Champions League final, which I was just at a month ago, was packed. People were going nuts. It wasn't, World Cup mania, but people get really excited. So if you enjoy that feeling, if you enjoy community and camaraderie and, hey, listen, I'm going to have my 90-minute best friend, it doesn't have to end here just because the U.S. is done and not that good. You can take up an MLS team. You can take up a European team or a South American team. And honestly, I kind of want to talk about that today. We're going to do that in the next couple episodes. Players here. I know that a lot of people, when they're trying to pick their team, try and pick it based on a player. Mark, as you know, we've had some interviews where we've asked people like, why did you like Liverpool? Or why do you like Tottenham? Or why did you choose Everton? And they came back to as a specific player.
Mm-hmm.
Gareth Bale, Tim Howard, Landon Donovan. And this is the kind of chance here, this episode here, where we can point that out of, listen, keep the good times going. You can watch more and find your football family.
Yep, absolutely. And listen, you and I were texting back and forth during the Argentina match earlier today as we record this on Tuesday evening. They're losing to Egypt and probably, by all rights, deserve to get eliminated by the Egyptians.
Yep.
But here comes the greatest player the world perhaps has ever seen. He puts his team on his back, and he carries them to a 3-2 win in a match. Frankly, I think that if you were to get Lionel Messi in his most candid moment on the planet, he might tell you that he was concerned when they gave up the third goal, which only wound up being the second because the second one had been taken off the board. But I think he might admit that his confidence in his team, never in himself, but his confidence in his team at that moment when they went officially down 2-0 might have wavered a bit. And I think he might have seen a scenario where they were going to be eliminated by the Egyptians.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he put them on his back and carried them not just to the equalizer, which was pure Messi, but the fact that they won in regulation for all intents.
With 20 minutes to go.
That's going to get people to watch Miami.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to get eyeballs on MLS.
Mm-hmm.
And when that season resumes, remember, there's still about half an MLS season to come after the World Cup final. I think that will help exponentially. Now, if they had lost to Egypt, I'm not so sure that would be the case. But I think now that, he spun this magical comeback today, I think that is going to go a long way to helping lift Major League Soccer. And it's never going to be among these elite leagues that we talk about all the time, and we'll get into a little bit more here. But it is showing to be a fairly competitive league, and guys are coming over, albeit most of them at the tail ends of their careers. They're still choosing to come over here to the United States and perform on this stage instead of just disappearing into the sunset wherever they've been.
I mean, one of the breakout stars on TV is, for Americans, everyone else knows who Zlatan Ibrahimovic is outside of the U.S., but he played here in the MLS. Beckham played here in the MLS. As we're talking now, Colombia and Switzerland are playing. James Rodriguez playing for Minnesota. So you're right. Hopefully this does give a shot in the arm. And on top of that, after this season, the MLS is going to link up or schedule their games alongside or have their season shift to when the European leagues, because usually it's in the summer. It's like it's off season compared to the European leagues. It's going to be going at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that'll help in a lot of ways. Number one, it puts everybody into the same transfer window.
Yep.
It syncs up schedules. And, from a selfish standpoint, as far as you and I are concerned, it gives us more content, more games to watch every weekend.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. This is for next episode, but I'm looking forward to Antoine Griezmann, who did not play for France, but is a tremendous player. Used to be Atletico Madrid, playing for Orlando. I'm a big fan of him. And he's a huge fantasy football fan. So I think Americans are going to like him. But those are the kind of things, getting those players in there that gives some... The MLS has high-scoring games. And we Americans like high-scoring games. If you did not enjoy the exciting 1-0 Portugal versus Spain, which was an excellent game, if that upsets you that there was only one goal, then the MLS is going to be more for you, because there are going to be goals. It's going to be more of, 3-1, 3-2, definitely higher scoring games.
They're higher scoring, but, from a technical standpoint, from the beautiful game part of it, I think one of the criticisms is it's not so beautiful. I mean, it's nice that there's parity and teams are basically even. And outside of the transcendent players that some of these squads have on their rosters, the talent level, by and large, is pretty even. But I just think, when you watch some of the upper echelon European, South American, even some of the African teams that people have had a chance to watch over the course of this 2026 World Cup, I think if you look at it through a critical lens, I think you see that the American League, MLS, is far behind. If it's in the top 10, that would be a good thing. Now, do you want to be top 10? It's a nice place to be, but I think, because we are the arrogant Americans, we want to be top 3. It's never going to happen. But we have a shot at elevating to, the fringe of the top 5 for sure.
Absolutely. We got the talent there. Speaking of, you were talking about the African leagues. I want to say a shout out here. What continent had the second most teams that advanced to the knockout round stages?
I know the answer.
Africa.
Yeah.
Africa had a great cup. I mean, South Africa, Morocco, Senegal, Ivory Coast, DR Congo, and Cape Verde. I mean, they were unbelievable with Vizina. Egypt, who just gave Argentina all they give, Algeria, and Ghana. Like 9 teams.
Yep.
That is more than the entire both of South and North America combined. I know that there's only Morocco left in the quarters, but good on them, man. It makes me want to watch the African Cup more. They got fantastic players. They all came to play.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I was uptown last week walking across 116th Street in the neighborhood of the Apollo Theater. And they have all these bodegas and electronic shops and souvenir shops. In every window, there were Senegal World Cup jerseys, home and away. So you had the whites and you had the greens. They were getting ready to play. People were assembled outside in, 105-degree temperatures to watch on the monitors inside these stores where they had very little air conditioning in most of them. And it was an incredible sight because I didn't expect it, especially in the heat. Figure everybody's going to be in the air conditioning. But even when there was no air conditioning, they were all just wrapped by what they were watching.
Can I just say that Senegal got jobbed? That penalty in the final stoppage.
Yeah.
They won the African Cup. Morocco had a lawsuit and said that they won and won the lawsuit. But Senegal is a great team. I think they would have beaten the U.S. If we had played Senegal, I think we would have been pasted by them too.
Well, and see, therein lies the problem because at what point were we going to be able to get into the quarterfinals?
Yeah.
Where was this team's ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I suppose we should have won the round of 32, no matter who we played.
Yeah.
Given the way they set up the groups, we should have been able to survive that one and did, and obviously moved through. But I don't know that America on the world stage is a top 16 team. I don't see it.
Not yet. But that leads us into the transition here of if you want to keep your soccer thrill running and you want to find your football family, it's time to start watching some European leagues because that's where a lot of the talent is, especially in the Premier League. If you don't mind, I'm just going to dive right into this.
No, go.
Now, I want to set the stage here. We're going to start off with players that are in the Premier League here. For those who are interested and want to watch the games, they're usually over the weekend. They're from like 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock. Sometimes there's a 7 a.m. game. They're on Peacock and on USA. So that's how you can get your watching if you don't go to your local bar. And I would highly suggest going to your local bar, have a pint in the morning there, enjoy and use it to wake up. But the first player I'll talk about who had an okay season, okay World Cup. He had a great first few games, really didn't do so well in the last game. Anthony Robinson for Fulham. London-based club. If you want to choose Anthony Robinson as your player, Fulham's a great team. They're a mainstay in the Premier League. If you remember, you and I met a couple supporters over at Legends.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't used those interviews yet, but there is a Fulham fan base here in New York, across the country. It's a legitimate team. It's not one of the big six. They're going to be in it no matter what. They're going to usually be fighting for top 10 in the Premier League.
Which is, again, what you want. As we sit here today on July 7th, you'd much rather be Fulham than Tottenham.
100%. 100%, which is really funny because there were so many Tottenham players that actually they had one of the highest amount of players in the World Cup. That's for next episode. Next up, we've got Tyler Adams, who had a good World Cup. He didn't have a bad, everyone had a bad fifth game. But he plays for Bournemouth. And Bournemouth is a high-scoring analytics ball. It's in the south coast of England. We have yet to find the supporters club in New York. So I would say if you are a zigger while other people zag, you don't want to be mainstream, but you want to kind of have everybody know that you are a deep-cut kind of guy, Bournemouth is for you. Bournemouth is not a team that everybody knows, but honestly, they're really good. Every year, we keep using the Tampa Bay Rays of old. We use that for Brentford, but they are in that vein where high-scoring guys, really exciting games. So if you see a Bournemouth game on, it's going to be a fun game.
And we're going to make it a point this upcoming season to find the Bournemouth faithful. They've got to be out there somewhere.
They got to be out there, or we're going to England.
Well, we know we'll find them there.
We'll find them there. I'd be happy to come out and see Bournemouth in England. Next up is one of the guys I think is one of the people who have come off the best on Team USA, Chris Richards. Crystal Palace. Chris Richards had a great series. Before he got into soccer in his teens, he had kind of played around. He was in football. He hadn't decided on a sport. He's like one of those late bloomers who is just extremely athletic, is a fantastic athlete, and just said, you know what, I want to play soccer. and just took off. His athletic ability just took off. And he's on a really good team, Crystal Palace. And over the last few years, Crystal Palace has taken off. Now, we can make a Woody Johnson Jets comment here because Woody has bought into the team. If they do start losing, you can blame it on American on the Jets, but they have been winning. They won the FA Cup 2 years ago. They won some European hardware this year. There's actually quite a few players in the next episode that we're talking about with Crystal Palace. They are a fun team. They took Arsenal in this year's FA Cup. They took Arsenal to penalties, and both sides made their first 5. It went through, I think, 9 until somebody missed. Like, this is a really tremendous, fun team to watch. Also in London, highly recommend it. This is the one I feel like if you're going to say, I want a Team USA guy, Crystal Palace is for you. And there is a New York supporters group. We haven't made our way up there, but I'm looking forward to meeting them.
Yeah, we're going to really dive into a lot of the squads that we didn't have a chance to ingratiate ourselves with this past season. And I have to be honest, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we should probably start looking at some of the lower tier teams too. Great, Lincoln City was a great story.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough was a great, so many of these teams, those who flirted with promotion, those who flirted with relegation from even championship down to the lower levels. I think there are stories to be found there too. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say about how and why they're supporting these teams that, for all intents, are like the Cubs pre-2016.
There's a lot of history in some of the deeper teams, too, that they had been up in the Premier League. They had won stuff, and just through all change of ownership, loss of money, something like that, that they went down and have gone all the way down to League Two or even out. It's deep. The English Football Association is really deep, which leads me to one of the other teams. Brendan Aronson didn't really have a good World Cup, but I just want to give a shout out to Leeds here, because we haven't had a chance to talk about Leeds this season and meet some people from there. But Leeds is actually a team that just had come up into the Premier League and stayed up this year, but they have a deep history. I mean, there's a fantastic movie called The Damn United with Michael Sheen playing Brian Clough. If you are really into soccer now and you want to see a soccer movie, The Damn United is really good. Also, Haji Wright didn't really play very much.
Hang on, before you get to Haji Wright, I have a question.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, did Brendan Aronson actually play on Team USA?
Yes, he did.
He did?
He played in that Turkey loss.
He did?
He did.
So he was like Claude Rains. If they make an Aronson story, we'll have to dig up Claude Rains to play him, because he was literally the Invisible Man.
He didn't.
Honestly, you're telling me he played?
No, I swear to God, he played. It was not good. He had a few shots on goal. He had some opportunities against Turkey, and I was looking forward to him. I was like, New Jersey boy, let's go, because I remembered him from the last World Cup in 2020 or 2022, and he was okay. And he did nothing. It was very disappointing. Yeah, that's why he stayed on the bench after that. But I just wanted to drop in Leeds. Same with Haji Wright here. Haji didn't play very much. Talented young man. But I wanted to talk briefly about Coventry, which, like you said, there's really deep teams in the English leagues. Coventry just came up from the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
Is a championship league, is going to be playing in the Premier League this year. So if you want a U.S. player as an excuse to root for an underdog, if you're a Jets or a Browns fan that's looking to keep that tough streak going, maybe Coventry is for you.
I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of underdog stories. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. Hull's back in the Premier League.
Yes.
I'm excited about that. I followed them the last time they got promoted and were up when Josie Altidore played for them. It feels like a million years ago. So it'll be nice to get back on that bandwagon a little bit. And, obviously in a different context, because now we're doing this show and looking to find these fans. And I'm curious to know how many middle-aged Americans who remember Josie Altidore on Hull are actually still Hull fans.
I would hope so. When you pick your team, you're supposed to stick with your team, even if it goes down.
You're supposed to, yes.
And I will say the Championship League is awesome. We got Wrexham has come up there. There's been, Southampton was battling for it. It is a really fantastic league. Honestly, they would run ramshod over the MLS. It is a wonderful, strong league. Probably could go against most of the European leagues outside of La Liga and Serie A and maybe Ligue 1 and Eredivisie. But it's a really deep league. Speaking of other leagues, I need to give a little love here, even though the two guys we're going to talk about did not really have great World Cups. Serie A in Italy. Pulisic plays for AC Milan, and Weston McKennie playing for Juventus. He had a good World Cup, not a great World Cup. I have a special love for the Italian league, and even though, especially because Italy didn't make the World Cup this year, so we're not getting any talking about Italian players or the Italian league, and so I want to take a brief moment here to give them some love, because what they have compared to the other leagues is they have a lot of island games. And for non-NFL listeners, an island game is where there's only one game to watch, which is really fun. You can watch on CBS Sports or the Paramount app. Also on the Paramount apps is the Champions League. That's a good reason to go out and get it. But Italian football is known for hard-nosed defense, precision, highly intelligent fan base. It's the home of Maradona and Zlatan. And if you're looking to pick a team, why not pick a team that you want to travel to? Who doesn't want to travel to Italy, Mark? Who doesn't love visiting the boots?
Very true.
I mean, if you could pick any team and travel there from Bologna and Verona down to Napoli and Roma and be like, you know what? I'm joining this because my wife wants a trip to Italy and I want to go to a game.
Yeah, as opposed to the Arctic Circle.
Exactly. We'll get to Bodo Gimp later. But, it's been tough couple years for Italian football. In the 80s, Italian football was the best, right? You go into Maradona at Napoli, Juventus, they were dominating the Champions League. The Italians were winning the World Cups in 94 and also ran in 90, thanks to Maradona. Just really quick, the two teams that are played there, Christian Pulisic, AC Milan. AC Milan didn't have a great year, but they're a top team. They put money in. Somehow they played themselves out of the Champions League 2 years in a row, which is not a good look for AC Milan for such a top team. But think of it as the Yankees on hard times.
I was just thinking exactly that. But the Yankees do make the playoffs every year.
Yes.
So they are perennial contenders, and it's nice that AC Milan obviously perennial contenders in their league, but they want bigger. They want Champions League, and you can't win the Champions League if you're not in the Champions League. And so you've got to succeed in your own backyard before you can think about branching out. And they are usually, Milan usually is among those all-star teams, like the Yankees back in the 80s when George Steinbrenner tried to buy all the best players.
Yep.
And
I miss those days.
Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. The Yankees, I know a lot of fans around here forget sometimes that in the 1980s, New York City was really a Mets town.
Yes.
Because the Mets were contenders every year. They were never lower than second place in their division. And then when they finally did break through and won the World Series 40 years ago, I can't believe I'm saying this was definitely a Mets town back then and even into the early part of the 90s because the Yankees were just abysmal for the better part of a decade. And it's interesting to see a team like AC Milan. Again, they're not destitute. They're not at the bottom of the league, but to not be in the upper rungs of their own league is very disappointing in the last 2 years.
Shocking. It's kind of shocking. And the other one where Weston McKennie is on, Juventus, same boat. Powerhouse, always got money, always got a great team. And this year also did not show up, came short up in the Champions League, did not have a great had a solid season and then just kind of fell apart. So we'll get more into the Italian league later. I need to push us along here because while we talked about the downside of the faux Balogun and the red card, he still was a revelation. And people may want to follow foe into the European League, and he plays in the French League, Ligue 1.
Mais oui.
Mais oui. But unfortunately, the French League is not really on TV here in the U.S. It's one of the really annoying things because PSG, one of the top teams, if not now the top club team, I'm hoping that some network decides, hey, you know what? Let's give some money to the French League because there's some good teams there. He is on Monaco.
Yeah, you really have to dig around to find those games.
It's really tough because Monaco's a good team. They got high scoring. They used to have Briel and Bolo, who just moved on with Switzerland. Who doesn't want to visit the tiniest but richest per capita country in the world?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure their stadium's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
A good excuse to go to the south of France. So Monaco is often in the Champions League. If you want to be a faux Balogun follower, you're going to have to go to Monaco and hunt down those French League games.
It's kind of like looking for Major League Baseball most of the time here.
Exactly, unless you're going to pay big bucks.
Too darn many sources of coverage.
Yep.
And listen, I have them all, so I can, if you're out there, I'll find you. But by the time I find you, it might be the end of the first half.
Yep.
Just because there are so many different options. It's a little frustrating, frankly, and I think that's one of the reasons maybe that the fringe fan may not develop into a diehard just because very often it's so difficult to find these games.
Absolutely. And the next two leagues we're going to talk about is in the same vein because the German Bundesliga, where there's a few really great players, you have to have ESPN Plus. You have to have streaming and you have to pay that extra. At least it's on, but you have to pay up for that. Well, I guess you do in Paramount, but at least CBS will have some of those games, and Peacock and USA will have the Premier League games for the general public. And sometimes they'll be on NBC, but the Bundesliga is on ESPN Plus. And we're not going to talk about the juggernaut Bayern right here, but Malik Tillman, scorer of the one bright spot against Belgium, is on Bayern Leverkusen.
Yeah, for my money, Tillman was the star for the red, white, and blue of this entire tournament. And so I will make it a point to watch Malik Tillman play for Bayer Leverkusen any chance I get.
And Bayern Leverkusen's a good team. It was just a couple years ago that they won the Bundesliga. They used to be known as Neverkusen because they would always come so close and then just kind of lose it at the end. And 2 years ago, they had a magnificent run. Unfortunately, a lot of those players and the coach left from that team, but they're a good team. They are often in Europe playing the Champions League or the Europa Conference Leagues, and Tillman is going to play for them. And the Bundesliga is a high-scoring league. And the Bundesliga's games are usually like 3-2, 4-3. Like they are really fun, very technical. I would equate Bayern Leverkusen to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've tasted some glory. They've had their moment in the sun, but they kind of came back to earth when a bunch of their players were poached after their magic season. But one of the things I love about the German leagues is some of them have these wild names based off of old corporations. Like Bayern Leverkusen is because the German pharmaceutical company, Bayer, decided they wanted a football team in 1904.
Yeah, so why isn't it Bayer Leverkusen? Why is it Bayer?
I think it's because corporations are evil. And they wanted to separate themselves from it.
I'm just curious, like, is the company called Bayer aspirin in Germany? I don't know.
You know, I don't know. I believe it's just Bayer, Bayer, German pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, right. So why is the soccer team Bayer Leverkusen and the aspirin company is Bayer? It just makes no sense to me. Anyway,
It makes no sense.
there are a million things in this world that make no sense to me, and that's for the topic of this discussion, that's at the top of the list.
Quick aside, Gladbach, I always have a hard time reading this one here. Moken Gladbach, which is another German team, which is always kind of in the mix. You know, good on them. They're one of the last teams from the former country Prussia, if you didn't know that.
How about that? Talk about old school.
Gladbach is a little Spursy, because 1 minute they'll beat Bayern München, and the next minute they'll lose to St. Pauli and Hamburger. And if you love those names like I love those names and love saying Bundesliga.
Well, the St. Pauli girl can be a little distracting.
100%. And I just love that there's a team named Hamburger. And I'm so American for saying that.
But it's Hamburger.
Hamburger.
Hamburg, yeah.
If you want to choose a team based on the names, those are two of the teams to go for there.
Those could be two of my favorites. If we go for Hamburger and St. Pauli to wash it down, that's perfect. Right?
You got the meal all set up.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Now we move on over to La Liga, which is
Nice pivot.
Thank you. We move on over to La Liga, where if you love the Spanish team, is a lot like that. Very technical. It's a little lower scoring, good defense, but the goals are fantastic. They also have a lot of island games. They start at 7 a.m. They go all the way to 3 o'clock. And like Italy, they show shots of these people going into these beautiful stadiums and cobbled streets with their scarves. I absolutely love waking up at 7 a.m. and having a cup of coffee and watching all these fans, even though it's like noon there or 1 o'clock, going to their games. There's just something really fun about that, of starting your morning, seeing Spanish fans making their way into the stadiums. And Alex Freeman, who also had a good World Cup, plays for Villarreal. I can say that. Villarreal. Out on the Mediterranean coast of Spain. They've actually been really good these past couple of years. They weren't a top flight team until 98, and they've gone up and down, but they signed Freeman to a 6-year contract. They're very fun to watch. They've made the Champions League, I believe, this year. Last year, they just missed the conference championship by losing to Crystal Palace, who we mentioned earlier, in the finals. Great team. So if you want to get into a little Spanish, Alex Freeman, Villarreal, or we can give a little shout out to another American who wasn't in the World Cup, your boy Pellegrino Matarazzo.
Yeah, listen, as soon as he signed to coach at Sociedad, I said, I am paying attention to this team and to this league. And he had some nice wins after taking over early in the season.
They won the Copa del Rey championship. Yeah. They're going to be in Europe. There's a lot of players from Real Sociedad. They're a really fun team. And if you want to keep that Team USA without the kind of gunk in your mouth of Team USA, go after Pellegrino Matarazzo. Fantastic story. No offense to the English, Dutch, German, and Scottish leagues, but if you're talking casual fans and you want an excuse to travel, just like Italy, the Spanish league. So I'm just going to leave that there.
All right.
Last league I'm going to touch here is the Eredivisie, just because Serginho Dest and Ricardo Pepe play for PSV Eindhoven. They are occasionally on ESPN+. The Dutch league is not in the top big 5, but it's really fun to say Eredivisie. So you will see them in the Champions League. High-scoring team. So if you kind of want to zig also and be like, you know what? I want to watch a league that no one else is watching and you want to be a little different, that's definitely a flex.
Yeah.
PSV Eindhoven.
Yep.
And Mark, one of the biggest stories that came out of this World Cup is the Tartan Army and how much fun the Scots were across Boston, across Miami. I got to be honest, there's probably a lot of people who are, how do I get more involved with the Scottish League?
Mm-hmm.
The Scottish League is also on Paramount, I believe. I'm up here in Providence, and my wife performed the other night at a local theater, the Galactic Theater, which was really fun. And I was looking at their socials, and the Scots made their way all the way down to Warren, Rhode Island. I mean, that's like an hour out of Boston.
Wow.
And they were partying at this nightclub. And I was like, God, these guys go hard, and they're fun. And so if you want to get into the Scottish League, Austin Trusty, who scored against Turkey, plays for Celtic, a perennial contender, top of the league out of Glasgow. They often make the Champions League. Now, I've seen a few of their home games on TV. Celtic Park rocks. Celtic Park is loud. It's boisterous. It looks like an amazing place to catch a game. Our friend Todd Smith, who just was in the last episode talking about Relegated, talks a little bit about the Scottish League going in there, so read his book. But I feel like a lot of people might want to ride the Scottish wave out of this World Cup. And even though they're out, they're still remembered. And this is a great way to do it.
Yeah, I think between the Scots and the Norwegians, of all the second-tier teams, those are the ones that people are going to remember coming out of this tournament.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have friends up here that live in the Boston area, do not care about soccer, and were sending me constant pictures of the beer running out at Sam Adams, of a tap room, of people partying in the street. And then at the same time, a week later when the English fans visited, that they closed their doors. But I will say to the English fans who came to Boston thinking they were going to get a warm reception, have you not read history? I was kind of surprised that they were like dumbfounded that of all the cities they came to in Boston that they weren't welcomed with open arms.
And Sean, given where we are in the calendar and just past July 4th, 250th birthday of these great United States of America, I think that the English probably need to understand that up in the Commonwealth, there might still be a little bit of a grudge.
Just a bit.
So listen, I want to keep this conversation going. We're going to take it a little more international as we continue talking World Cup Soccer 2026, and we'll look at some of the breakout stars from the international teams and where they're headed when this is all over. Mr. Castles, it's actually been a pleasure to rejoin you for an episode or two.
Yeah, you made my day coming back. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking with you in the next episode about these international stars.
And we will do that next week. Very happy you could join us for this one. That's Sean Castles. I'm Marc and Sean. We'll talk to you next time, everybody.
This has been the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc and Sean and Sean Castles. Our executive producer is Sue Zizza. Marc and Sean and Sean Castles are co-producers. David Shin is our master engineer. Assistant producer Avery Gehrig, and I'm Alicia Antwine. To be a guest on the Ultra World Podcast or learn all about sponsorship opportunities, send an email to ultraworldpod@gmail.com. Be sure to follow the show on all the social media platforms at Ultra World Pod. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved, Ultra World Podcast, LLC.